there's not a whole lot people are willing to tell me about my family's past, let alone about specific people. When I asked my dad about his mom, who recently passed away 2 years ago, he couldn't really tell me a whole lot. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because he's still figuring out how he feels about the situation, about his mother. Maybe because he hasn't really processed it. And maybe because he doesn't really know how. Anyway, I chose to do this project because it's important for me to figure out and to honor the memory of my grandmother, Eduvina. I don't know much about her past, but what I do know, I'll try to tell you. I know this much. She was born, probably, in 1939. My parents didn't really know, but that's okay. In a small town called Las Animas. Known for its rodeos, its ranches, and its small town. In the state of Zacatecas in Mexico. All I really know about my grandmother's earlier life was that she actually grew up in a family that was quite prosperous in Mexico. They owned a big ranch, and they were able to get by pretty well. Unfortunately, at one point, their money was stolen somehow. I'm not really sure how the story goes. But my grandmother married at a really early age to my grandpa Don Chilo. She had 8 children. And she took one in as her own, and pretty much eventually had to move to Mexico City because they couldn't afford to live in Zacatecas anymore. There was more opportunity in Mexico City, and my grandfather really involved himself in trying to find a job. Eventually he found a job in the United States, working in trains, which at the time allowed him to actually work in the United States as a temporary resident for a work visa. My grandmother was very close to her family, all 9 of her kids. She was very close to my grandfather as well. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away in 2012 of lung cancer. This loss highly affected my grandmother, and she became very depressed, and even started to say that she had a lot of physical pain all the time. As a result of this, she took a lot of different kinds of medications, definitely over 4 a day. She developed cirrhosis, and in the period of about 1.5 years, she passed away. I'll admit to having complicated feelings about my grandmother's death. Towards the end of her life, it was very difficult to be around her, and to not attribute blame. I sort of felt like eventually my grandmother just sort of gave up. She was quite young for her age, so this is especially frustrating for me. And thinking about what kind of conversation I would have with my grandmother right now, her advice to me as a social worker, I can only really think of a few things that she would constantly say. She would sort of speak in platitudes and joke around and sometimes could never give a straight answer. But I think when it came to being prideful of her family, she was always willing to be serious at that point and to truly let us know how much she loved us. I think she understood basically what I was doing for social work, and I think she mostly understood that I was trying to help people. I think she knew that I was really passionate about it, and I know that she knew that I was in grad school, which is why I was away for so much time. I think right now she would tell me that in terms of my transitions in my life, that as long as I still have my family around, and that I remember to invest in my family, that I will actually be doing quite fine. It's mostly what she wanted to leave behind. It's definitely what she has left behind. The ability to joke, the ability to be playful and love each other, and a slew of grandkids and nieces and nephews who still really think about her all the time. That was her legacy. It's simple, but it doesn't have to be anything grand or a big gesture. I think it's important for me to remember that right now as a social worker, that things don't have to be a grand gesture. That even the smallest intervention can help. The smallest point of empathy and being there. And right now I'm really trying to be there, because I know that my grandmother was there for me, even in times when I was quite upset with her. And I think that's a legacy that I'll take with me. This unconditional love that was performed countless times from both grandparents. My grandmother was proud of me for attending college, passing college, and being the first person in my family to go to grad school. I'd want to tell my grandmother that towards the end of her life I was quite upset with her. I had a lot of complicated feelings and didn't really know how to discuss this. On top of that, I think my own self-conscious nature of feeling like my Spanish wasn't good enough affected the relationship I could have had with her. So if I could tell her these things, I think I would, as I'd want to hear what she would have to say. I think she would end it with a joke, and then with a really big kiss. And that's how I really enjoy remembering her.